Let me hit. All right, we're ready. Okay, so here we go. All right, Emily. So we have Emily here, and she's going to share about herself and her career and share some advice with all of you. So, first off, Emily, let people know who you are and what you do in the diabetes space.
Yeah, so I'm Emily. I am a nurse and a diabetes educator, and I work, I do a lot of things. I work as a nurse and a diabetes educator in a pediatric endocrinology office, as well as working in content creation with Diabetes Link, and also with Type 1 Together for their online parent community.
Amazing. Yeah, you have many places where you show up in the diabetes
Yes.
community. That's awesome. And let us know how you kind of got to where you are right now in your career path, whether that's like schooling, education, speaking with mentors. How'd you get there?
So I always knew that I wanted to work in the diabetes space, and I always knew that I wanted to work in pediatrics and with children and young adults with diabetes. So I started with nursing school, went through nursing school, and everyone told me you can't go straight into pediatrics. You have to work med surg. And I laughed at them and I went and worked in pediatrics. I have never taken care of an adult patient my entire career. So I went straight into pediatrics. I worked at Children's Hospital of Michigan for quite a few years. And then when I saw an opening at the pediatric endocrinology office for a diabetes educator role, I applied to that. I got my hours in there. And then from there, was able to get my hours, apply for, and take my CDCES exam. So in order to take the CDCES exam and pass it, you have to have a certain number of hours and a certain number of credits to apply. So you have to like work as a diabetes educator before you can be certified as one. So that's a sort of a little tricky spot that a lot of people want to become a CDCES, but they can't get the actual hours of education under their belt before they can apply. So that can be a little tricky.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, how many hours did you have to get before?
Been
You
a
might not know
while.
that number, but I'm assuming it's a lot, like maybe
It's a
years.
good amount. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good amount for both the like education hours and also the practice hours. I can't remember how many practice hours it is.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, that's super interesting. I think, yeah, becoming a diabetes educator, there's like so many different paths and different ways. So, yeah, I think it's really interesting. And I love that you said you've never worked with an adult patient. That's awesome. You're like,
Young
that's
adults,
you.
yes. Like
Young
young
adults.
adults, yes.
Yeah.
But like 25 is sort of my cutoff.
Yeah.
Like there are some patients in the pediatric office that we keep through their college career and whatnot. But, whether it was in the hospital or in the office, once they're, a mid-adult, they're not
Yeah.
mine anymore.
What would you say is like your favorite part of what you do?
The community, for
I
sure.
love that.
In addition to what I do for work, I do a lot of volunteering within the diabetes community. So I serve on the board of Diabetes Solutions, which does community programming for kids and adults with diabetes, supports diabetes camp. I'm also in our camp leadership for our local diabetes camp. So just the community around diabetes is really just my absolute favorite part. And then finding those patients or those people who whether they're new or they're burned out or they're just overwhelmed with diabetes and sort of welcoming them into that community and seeing how much it can change people's lives. That's my favorite part. I love that.
Oh, I love that. And you did such a good job. I went to a camp
Thank you.
this year and Emily was there and it was great.
Yes.
Connect again. Okay, so what piece of advice would you give someone who's maybe watching this right now and on the fence, maybe knowing they want to be an educator, they're not sure, they're maybe overwhelmed with the process, like anything you would share with them on like next steps or any advice you'd give to kind of help them
Yeah.
make that decision forward?
So I think whether or not, and everyone who's in next gen, does everyone have diabetes themselves?
Not all of them, some of them
Not
do.
all.
Yeah.
Okay, some. Okay, so I have two pieces of advice then.
Yeah, I love it.
So, for people who do have diabetes and then are also looking to work in diabetes, never underestimate the value that your unique perspective of diabetes brings to the diabetes community and to your work environment. There's no two diabetes journeys that are exactly the same. So, everyone's perspective and everyone's sort of journey is unique and incredibly valuable. That being said, when you both live in diabetes and work in diabetes, it can just be a lot. So making sure that you are taking care of yourself in all the ways, not just diabetes, but like taking care of your mental health and finding your people and hobbies and things like that that are nothing can be fully separate from diabetes, but that aren't diabetes centered. So finding, finding your joy outside of work and outside of taking care of yourself in diabetes, because people who don't have diabetes get to clock out at the end of the day. And we go home and we still have diabetes.
Yeah,
Right? So
still
finding a
working.
way to find that, that balance in life. Um, and then just when working in diabetes in general, never forget why we do what we do, right? It's always about the people. The person with diabetes has to be the center of everything we do. And going back to that perspective, whether or not we have diabetes, all the way from the littlest of people to the oldest of people, everyone's journey is their own, and everyone's journey is important and valuable, and we have to honor them by doing our best work within the diabetes community.
I love it. Thank you. Oh, I'm sure
Yeah.
you guys all got chills. I did. Thank you so much, Emily. That was beautiful. And you're so right.
Yeah.
I think I loved that point about clocking in, clocking out, and
Hmm.
taking care of yourself and kind of having that boundary because it is important, especially if you
Yeah.
live with diabetes. But I loved also if you don't live with diabetes, remembering like what that passion is or your motivator to
Yeah.
support, show up in the sector and the community. That was perfect.
Yeah, you have to have that, that something outside of it, right? Because even like my volunteer stuff is even a lot of it is diabetes centered, but I have to have like my little garden and my books and my things that I do that are not about diabetes at all that sort of bring me back to like, okay, my whole life isn't actually about diabetes.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, that is so great. Thank you so much. We are excited to share this with
Thank
the
you.
fellows. And if you guys have any questions for Emily, you'll have the opportunity to send them over to us and we'll pass them along or connect you in whatever way that looks like.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Okay, bring us back. Okay, Emily, why don't you give us a day in the life of working as an educator in the diabetes space?
Yeah, so let me do sort of the office version. So I work in an outpatient clinic, and most of the time what we do, we have like many sources of input. We're getting phone calls, we're getting emails, we're getting log sheets, we're getting patients, all of those things. So a lot of days, you start off with like checking logs and making insulin dose adjustments. You might be seeing patients in clinic. So in our practice, the RN CDCES goes into every patient's room before the physician does. And we do, like sort of the overall, how are you doing, getting your regimen, seeing what you might need. And then if there's something that we need to cover or education we need to do, we might pop in after the physician is done. Um, Other than that, it's a lot of, general questions, a lot of new onset education. So if someone has a newly diagnosed kiddo with diabetes, we call them every day, every other day, check in, go over their log, make dose adjustments, just sort of talk them through being brand new to diabetes. But my favorite part is seeing people in clinic. That's my favorite.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. That's so
Yeah,
awesome.
it's really fun. And then with sort of that outside perspective, what I do with you guys could be writing articles, or making videos, which I am still learning all about,
You're doing great.
um, for Instagram or whatever it may be. So making some of those resources for the resource hub, writing things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Do you want to share what you've done at camps maybe? Because I feel like that's
Oh,
super cool
sure.
too.
Yeah. So I've been medical staff at camp for many years. I took a couple years off when I had babies, but um, I've done general medical staff where I had a cabin where I was responsible for their medical care. So I was never a camp counselor where like I stayed in the room with them. I was always doing the medical side, dosing their insulin, doing their site changes, all that kind of stuff. I always worked with teenage girls. They're my favorite.
Nice.
And now I am the staff coordinator. So I take all of like the camp schedule and the all of the staff and I make the infirmary schedule, make sure that there's a medical person at all of the different activities to treat low blood sugars and all of that. It's chaos, but I love it.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that just like at the core of everything you do is education and you do it in so many different
Mhm.
diverse ways. So it's really awesome. So anyone listening in, that's what we want to show you is that if you're interested in education or working one-on-one with patients, there's so many different ways and different avenues and how you can do that, whether it's through volunteering, your career path, working with other organizations like us, the Diabetes Link. There's so many different ways to do that. So thanks, Emily, for sharing.
Absolutely.